The following episode contains sensitive topic information that may not be appropriate for young listeners, as well as religious or other views that may not reflect those of the Sirens team.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sirens of the Supernatural. This is our Cryptid Chat Part 2 with Weekly Creep. Y'all enjoy and give them a listen too.
Do we want to talk about some vampires?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I have to do this because it is officially Twilight season, so. The Twilight song. Okay. Now, of course, I have all this information that I wanted to share, but I'm going to cut it down because I know we're like almost at 2 hours, but we can always break this up into a two-parter if we need to. So, there's vampire origin stories all over the place, right? Like every single culture has one, even if they like have never met another culture that has one, they have their own specific story. So the one that I want to talk about, which I think is one of the most interesting and possibly the oldest vampire origin story, comes from ancient Egypt. And y'all know I love some damn ancient Egypt, okay? I love it. So there was the goddess of war, Sekhmet, is said to be the first vampire. Now she kind of started out as Ra's daughter, and Ra's the main sun god that they have, right? So she started out as a goddess called Hathor, but Ra sent her down to the human world to kind of get rid of everybody that was conspiring against him, right? He was hearing of these rebellions, so he was like, okay, you go down here and you take care of these kids for me because I'm not doing this anymore. She was like, okay, I got you. So she goes down to the human world and she's like, if you're hating on my dad, I got beef with you. So she starts killing, right? She's killing everybody. She's killing all over the place. And it gets to the point where she becomes so bloodthirsty and so vicious that she just transforms into this rage-filled goddess of war that we know as Sekhmet now. So Ra is like, okay, well, she can't kill every single person down there, so I guess I gotta go take care of this. So he goes down and he tricks her by giving her a ton of beer that he has dyed red to look like blood, right? Because now she's so bloodthirsty. That's all she wants. So he's like, well, shit, I gotta get her to chill, so let me just drug her, I guess. So he gives her all of this bright red beer and finally gets her to calm down. So then she kind of calms down a little bit, and I guess it works out from there. But unsurprisingly, the depictions of her in ancient Egypt, she's got this like huge lion head, right? Because they held lions in such high regard for their fierceness and their viciousness. So it's not very surprising that that's what they associate with her. But interestingly, so she's not only a protector of pharaohs that go to war and people in battle, but she's also like a guider and protector of women when they get their cycles or through childbirth, which I thought was very interesting as well. So she's just she's an all-around baddie, basically. Like, she just does it all, okay? So the ancient Egyptians kind of credit her with drinking this river of blood, which is the Nile, when it overflows. Because when the Nile overflows, it kind of grabs the silt from the land and it turns bright red. So of course, you know, we're in ancient Egypt. They don't know why it's turning red, so it would very easily to them appear as blood, right? So there was this huge group of people that very highly worshipped her. Like, she had a big following, okay? And so they would pray to her when the Nile was in danger of overflowing and it was starting to turn red. Well, when it eventually went back down and kind of turned back to normal, it was said that it was because she came in and drank all the blood and saved them, which I thought was so interesting. And it's so funny too, because even as recently as 2016, the Nile has done this. It's kind of overflowed and turned bright red. Of course, it goes back down, but it's kind of cool to see like modern day what they saw, you know. But Of course, now we know that it's from the silt. It's not really blood. But the funnest part that I found from this whole legend, okay, so after a war or a battle was over, the people kind of felt that they needed to send her a sign that, like, okay, we're getting calmer now, everything's coming back down, we're good. So they would throw these huge parties, okay? They would throw these huge festivals. Now, I'm telling you, it's like, think about like spring break times 20. Or like we're talking like Girls Gone Wild. Like it would be like Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Like they went so hard. They were not only, how do I say this? They were not only celebrating physically, they were also celebrating by drinking. And it was said that they drank so much wine and so much beer during this specific festival, whenever the wars and battles would end, that it was more than the rest of the year combined for whatever specific community. They went so hard. Like, no, girl, we're about to show you how much we love you, but we're going to get lit. So they would party so hard. Now, I couldn't really find any connections of like, so she was supposed to be the first vampire, but I never found anything like where she turned somebody else into a vampire or created other vampires from her. But one thing that I did think was interesting, and I guess it comes from Ra being her father, so he was the main sun god. She was also considered a deity of the sun, which is a lot different than vampire stories that we know now, because the sun kills them. They can't go out during the day. Most of the vampire lore and legend that we know, vampires strictly at night, they sleep all day, but she's the sun deity, which I think it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was going to speak a little bit about modern day vampires, fully realizing that I'm jumping over thousands of years of history. I understand. I would like to do a deep dive and just do a whole episode dedicated to that. But like I said, I don't want to be long-winded. But I do want to point out the modern day vampires, because there are like groups and communities of actual vampires. It might not be what you're thinking. Some small groups will drink blood, but it's usually from like another consenting adult or partner. Consent, very important, good life lesson. Okay. But most of the time, at least from what I saw and what I was reading, it's not so much feeding on blood as it's feeding on like a psychical energy. So they're taking energy in from other people, from other situations and circumstances. And it's not so much blood. I mean, there are communities that do drink blood, not just solely for their own sustenance. They survive on other things too, but there are those communities. There's also something interesting I learned is that there are vampire courts in like mostly big cities. Like the main one I think is in New Orleans. There's like a whole vampire court and there's like a king or queen of the vampire court. They get elected. And they represent these whole communities. I know. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Anne Rice come true.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm pretty sure there's a vampire court of Dallas. I'm pretty sure there's one in New York. There's one in New Orleans. Maybe San Francisco. I don't really remember. But of course, those are like the positive representation. There are also negative representations. You know, sometimes people go a little crazy and they say that they're like a 500-year-old vampire, and then they get convicted of double homicide, and then it's a whole thing. So obviously there are good parts and bad parts, but overall I don't know if vampires are necessarily a cryptid, but they're like a huge urban legend, and I love them. I think they're so interesting. And I do want to end this off by asking everyone what their favorite like popular pop culture vampire is.
You have one. You've read all the Anne Rice. I'm actually like a vampire noob, I guess. Like I haven't seen Twilight. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, you got to. You got to.
I think personally for me, because I do still enjoy like true crime, I'm gonna say Richard Chase, the Vampire of Sacramento.
Oh.
Who isn't technically a real vampire, but he did some messed up stuff with blood. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about Richard Chase.
Oh,
Just a little bit.
yeah. Okay, this won't be like my other answers. No, he had like a psychological, like a mental issue. I don't know the name of right now, but there's similar conditions, I guess, like documented, like in Japan, for example. There's like specifically related to dudes who are convinced that their appendage is shrinking and will eventually fall off. They have this need to consume blood because in their mind, this is their connection with, I don't know what their parents did to them or whatever. But yeah, so they're convinced that if I keep drinking blood, my member won't fall off. And so Richard Chase had a kind of a similar affliction where he was convinced that he was running out of blood and that the blood that he had was actually bad. So it started out with like he would go to the pet store and get a rabbit or stuff like that. And anyway, he would consume this rabbit in various ways, not in like a stew or something conventional. And he for a while it would like feed this like mental urge that he had, and then eventually it just got out of control, even more out of control, and it literally consumed him and led to the death of a lot of people. I got really morbid really fast, so somebody else tell us the life
hack. Let's see. I'd always liked, like in the book, she didn't. I mean, I guess she played a big part in the book Queen of the Damned, but I just really enjoyed the portrayal of Akasha from Queen of the Damned by Aaliyah.
Yes.
That was a really that was an iconic. Like it veered away from the story and like the important parts of the actual book, but they made that movie so well, and Aaliyah slayed that role.
She killed it.
She so did. R.I.P. But yeah, I'd say Akasha.
Ryan, what about you?
I like all vampires, but the ones that I like that has the theme behind them. Of course, I raised like in the 60s, the real scary ones, with the long teeth and Salem's Lot and things like that. But I really like the storyline, besides, and Rhonda's going to like this, but behind Fright Night, because of it's not just a vampire, but I like some of the lines in this movie, like when they pull a cross on him. He's like, you've got to have faith for that to work on me. The whole thing about you have to be invited to come in, because it actually goes a little bit more involved in the lore. And that's one of the reasons those are some of my more favorite, because they go in more detail, not just, hey, I'm going to come bite your neck, right? It goes into, hey, you got to have faith for this to work. Hey, you actually have to invite me in. Hey, this is, and there's actually a plot and a storyline and basically rules. Hey, if you're a vampire, these are the rules you kind of got to follow, and these are the only ways you can beat me. And that goes back to like Fright Night, first couple, and then Twilight. They've got some good points, but Glitterman is kind of like, I don't know, it's different. They're probably the more
Glitterman.
It's the skin killer, right?
Glitterman and Wolf Boy. They are, as far as movies wise, they're probably the more powerful version of the vampires, just because of what they think. But I like the whole aspect is like I said, the story behind it. Hey, you have to be invited in, you have to do this, because a lot of the other movies don't go into that. And that's why I chose basically the Fright Night series.
Oh, can we have runner-ups? Because I do have one that I really enjoyed. Like I like all the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. She was awesome.
I love that.
Mom?
Well, I will say I have mine divided into like best seductive, best creepy, best.
I love it.
I want to hear them all.
Yeah.
So the the OG Bela Lugosi. He gives the creepiest vibes. I mean, and all he has to do is stand there and look, it's just like, get away from me, He can
Can
be the nicest
relate.
guy in the world. So he's the OG creepiest vibe. And Ryan and Lindsay know this, but I love the 1985 movie Fright Night, and I think it's because of Chris Sarandon's portrayal of the vampire Jerry Dandridge, and he is so, I don't know, he's just the bee's knees.
Mom is in love with him.
Yeah. Well, when you're 15 and you're watching that movie, all I'm going to say is lots of hormonal things going on.
That's when you become, that's when you become a woman.
Guess what? I get to have my picture made with him next month at Scarefest. He's going to be there. I'm so excited. But anyway, I digress. And my favorite modern day vampire has got to be Vampire Diaries, Damon. I just absolutely love Ian Somerhalder.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I feel like vampires, I think, is like a big black hole in my like horror knowledge. I was thinking I probably should have said like Dracula as well, because Bram Stoker is actually from Dublin.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But I'm like, I haven't even finished the book. I've tried many times. Oh, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got to give a shout out to Gary Oldman. I mean,
Yeah.
oh gosh, he and Winona Ryder. I'm a big Keanu fan, but I was just like all about that movie when it came out, and I was surprised at how well Gary Oldman did in that role. He brought it to a new level, I think.
That man is like unmatched in everything. Like I'm more familiar. Like I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so that's like where like he was Sirius Black, right? I'm not wrong.
I think so,
Yeah.
Because I remember finding out after and then seeing all of these other roles, and it's like it literally doesn't even look the same. But to tie, because Ryan, I get what you're saying. I'm like that as well. I love a good rule, and that whole like knocking on the door, asking permission. It goes back now to the Black Eyed Kids and like their whole thing.
Yes, that's true.
I don't even like welcome mats to my house. I'm like, why am I going to welcome? I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, a lot of witches will tell you that. Like, they don't put welcome mats out
Really?
because it invites energy,
Unwanted.
like unwanted energy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I've learned a lot. I'm just like, look, y'all are inviting stuff in. Don't be doing that, or don't be saying certain things, or don't be,
Yeah.
And people's like, I'm like, no, I've done research. I know this stuff.
Yeah. Or use fairy doors. People don't use fairy doors.
Really?
Well, yeah, because like in your culture, fairies are like evil and they cause mischief.
Yeah.
And
pesky.
And if you just give it a door by your house or inside your house, you're inviting it in.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. But have you guys been to New Orleans?
No.
Really?
One of my really good friends, she works at a university in Baton Rouge, and she keeps wanting me and another one of our friends to come down and go to New Orleans, but we just haven't had the time or the money to go down there. But it's on the list for sure.
Okay.
They got great walking tours.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like even as somebody who didn't know any like vampire lore or anything, like
they're vampire lore.
It's so like romantic and gorgeous, and like you're in the middle of it being told these like bizarre stories.
Yeah, they're like, you see this house, all this vampire stuff happened here. It's like you're seeing it.
Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah.
Did you guys go to the LaLaurie Mansion?
I mean, we've been across the street.
Yeah, because that's another like thing where it's like you just don't walk underneath that balcony because you invite bad things to yourself.
Oh,
and there's like people who don't know that it's the house, and like in the tour they were like, there's some people that walk under the balcony, and they were a part of the tour, and then they later report that bad things happened to them. Like they didn't realize that it was that's what it was.
But then at the same time, there's also people that just rent it for parties. And they're fine, you know what I'm saying? So
Well, didn't Nicolas Cage own that house?
yeah.
And that's when he tanked. So
He
that's why he
blamed his
started taking.
career on the-
Yeah, like his career tanked. He like was having trouble with money, and then that's why he had to take all these weird roles. Like he made all these crap movies because he needed the money. And then he apparently talked to like a Boudin witch and a Boudin practicer, and was like, she was like, yeah, what you have to do is you have to build like a pyramid in the one of the oldest graveyards in New Orleans to like rectify that.
But in building like this pyramid thing, because it's there in, what is it, like cemetery number 2 or something, like there's 2 famous cemeteries, and when you go in, like there's Nicolas Cage's preemptive tomb, but to build it he had to move like
tons of bodies,
so we don't know. And also like that voodoo queen was a white lady as far as I'm aware, so I'm not saying that her ancestors weren't historically from New Orleans and practicers or whatever. I don't know, but it's just a bizarre story.
It's a weird solution.
Yeah.
And one of his last movies was a vampire movie.
That's what I was gonna say. Didn't he play Dracula?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting.
I've not seen it yet.
I can't.
Are y'all gonna see the new Nosferatu with Willem Dafoe?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
that looks good.
Think about it. Yeah, it looks so good.
Mm-hmm. So he ended up. Nicolas Cage ended up selling the house because he was like,
he went broke.
Yeah, he was like, all this is because I bought this house, so he just sold it. But I think that cemetery where his pyramid isn't that same cemetery where
Marie
Laveau?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
There's like, look, and then or does anybody play Red Dead Redemption? No?
My son does.
Okay, well, just watch him playing Red Dead Redemption, because they have a New Orleans-based town, and there's so many like little Easter eggs. Like you will literally run into a vampire in like some back alley and stuff. But the game is put together so well that, like, honestly, I've refused to buy it again because I know how many hours I will lose, and I'm not a big gamer. But it actually is a really good like visual representation of New Orleans, and it's honestly it's great. It pulls you in, like, and it's, as somebody who has been there on vacation a couple of times, you definitely get that like weird old timey feeling like when you're there. And the game does a great job.
Cool.
Yeah,
well, we've talked about like Bigfoot, maybe some evidence. We've talked about maybe cryptids and now vampires. I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think there's actually something like vampires out there? Because I mean, they have communities. Where else would you hide? You're like, I'm a vampire. They're like, oh, we're all vampires.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think that a lot of the vampires today are really into their fetish stuff. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's great that they have a community. If I was into that kind of thing, I'd probably live in New Orleans and dress up as a vampire every day. I do think they're cosplaying themselves into reality, which is fun. And like Lindsay was saying, like with consenting adults and all that kind of stuff, it's great that they have an outlet for that. So that aspect of things I love. I think historically they were a great scapegoat for making people feel a little bit better about not having control over like when disease would go rampant in their small town, you know what I mean? But that at the same time though, like vampires is one of those things I haven't necessarily like studied it, but the tie over when we did like the werewolf thing and stuff like that, like I was more inclined to believe the animalistic part of things as opposed to this dude's going to show up with sharp teeth and drink your blood. And I don't know why. I don't know where the barrier is, You?
If I'm leaning into my idyllic world, I'd say there might have been a greater chance of them existing in history than they would be now. If you know what I'm saying, I think it's kind of like some animals where they just go extinct.
Yeah.
Or it could be like Richard Chase had like that
need.
That need, but it was like a mental like issue that he was having.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where that's what the vampires actually were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, whereas now it's like if somebody's kid was behaving that way in an ideal situation, the parent would go and get them help.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bloom into this horrific situation. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and you know, they say all of these legends and this lore had a nugget of truth somewhere. Some, you know, whether it was thousands of years ago. So yeah, it could be just that there was a nugget there, and people have just embellished and embellished and embellished. But it is that nugget of truth. That nugget of truth is what keeps us hooked. You know.
And one thing that when Lindsay was talking about the goddess, you know, and how her father, you know, kind of punished her a little bit, and she was the sun goddess. I was thinking, okay, if he wanted to do stuff to slow her down and to kind of punish her, she's the sun goddess. Why? And this might be where that came from. Okay, she can't come out in the sunlight anymore. She can only come out and do things at night. Yeah. She has to drink the buds to survive. So he reduced her chances of killing people to make it more of a necessity and to only increase her chances of killing people because she can only do it after dark or certain things. So I was like, how would that tie in? Because when you're telling me stuff, I'm like, okay, well, if she's a sun goddess, I'm going to punish her. She can't be in the sun no more. I'll make her.
That's a good point.
So that might be how that come about.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually.
So, Lindsay, do you have any like favorite?
Oh yeah, we never got.
I also really loved Queen of the Damned and Aaliyah's portrayal of Akasha. I love, this might be an unpopular opinion, okay? Because I know it's like cool to hate Twilight, and I also like used to want to be cool when I was a teenager and like, oh, it's so bad. And okay, it is the first movie, but it's like bad in the best way. You know what I mean? Like, I love to watch it because everything is tinted blue for no reason.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, first of all, is fire. Okay, 10 out of 10 soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And just all of the portrayals of these vampires who are so old, but for some reason are still in high school. And like, they're the weirdest things that if you watch it over, it's like for some reason they come into this cafeteria and they sit down and this one character just has like, I think it's a plastic bag of eggs for like, why? Okay? Like, what's happening? It's like you're telling me that you're in high school and you see this group of people walk by and you're like, they're not in their 30s? You really think that they're still in high school? They all look like grown-ass people. And just the storyline is so funny. I love how it goes into, most characters have like a really cool backstory it goes into, and then they have superpowers. And you don't really get that a lot in other vampire stories, I think. I mean, you do a little bit in like the Queen of the Damned Anne Rice world, but I mean, as far as being a living dead, they're out during the daytime. Yes, their skin sparkles, but for some reason it only does it like the one time in the first movie, and then maybe a little bit in the second movie, and then after that they're fine.
And the budget for sparkles ran out.
They got the lotions.
And the iconic lines of like, this is the skin of a killer, and like when Jacob runs around the corner, he's like, Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca? It does not get any better. It's just, I think, of the time when it came out, it's just a fun little world to be involved in, and I for one love to go back and rewatch it, especially this time of the year. But I do have to say, I know he's not a vampire in the movie, but the dad, Charlie, that man, that is a beautiful man. Okay?
He is beautiful.
I know he's not a vampire, and he never turns into a vampire, but he's the best character in the entire series, in my opinion.
I'm learning new things about you, Lindsay.
See, no, I think it goes with like
I'm gonna have to Google
with
this
the
guy.
age, right? Because like when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, like Jacob's kind of cute. You get older, you're like, no wait, Charlie.
Yeah.
You know?
There's when you're watching, you're like either Team Edward or Team Jacob. But
This
honestly,
guy?
these
Yeah.
days it's either Team Carlisle or
Team
Charlie.
Carlisle, yes.
Because that man's also beautiful.
Damn it, my face. There we go.
There you go. Daddy.
I think it was great that you brought up like because like in the book, yeah, like they're supposed to be like these immortal beings that still look like they're frozen in time. But like it's like when they made the movie, it's almost like whoever did the costume design or like the makeup and the hair, the wardrobe, they were like, you know, tongue in cheek being like, okay, but in real life, this is what they'd actually look like. They just look like 30-year-olds trying to look like they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like that's what it would look like in reality. Be like so out of place.
Like watching it back, it's so cringy because it's like obviously these are grown ass adults. And I do have to mention also, I love how Jasper just looks like he's in pain all of the time. This poor man. He so, and that's another thing. I'm like, so you're going to high school of all places, but second of all, you're these immortal vampires. You don't have to go to high school. Why make this poor man have to suffer around people all the time? He's a new vampire, so he's like wanting to attack everybody. That poor guy.
I'm gonna have to watch these movies now.
Yeah. You are.
Find out. Like,
even if you hate them, it's a fun time.
I didn't know.
High school and be a vampire because they'd be like back in 1960. This is. I'm like, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yes, no, it didn't. I was there. I mean, no, you're right. You're right. Never mind.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the thing with Jasper that was problematic is that he was in the Civil War, but he fought for the South.
Like, she did not have to do that. Like, I know it's like a young adult novel, so they're all in high school, whatever. But his backstory, like, she didn't have to do that. She could have very easily made him a Union soldier and just, it's fine. But
wasn't he in the book from Mississippi or something? What was it?
I can't remember.
Maybe?
I don't remember.
He had some sort of Southern.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing about his battle scars, and it's just, it's a whole thing.
Right on.
Well, when you watch them, Adam, let us know what you think.
Oh my God.
Well, I've been having trouble sleeping lately, so I might end up watching all three of them tonight.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So like I think it was like earlier this year because I didn't know Midnight Sun came out. Have you read Midnight Sun, Lindsay?
I haven't actually.
Okay, so I tried to read Midnight Sun, and halfway through it, I had to DNF it because I was like, wow. I first read the books in my early 20s, and now reading it when I was reading so Midnight Sun is Edward's perspective of what went down, and he is so unhinged. Like he's
so dramatic.
No, it's like because he was stalking her, and she never knew that he was breaking into her room, watching her sleep.
Eddie,
it's like, not okay,
this is not like why are we romanticizing this?
Yeah,
it's not okay. Like the scene where she wakes up and she like sees him standing in the window and he's like so scarily like staring down at her, and then she whips around and turns the lamp on and he's not there anymore, but like low key he was there. It's like, girl, if somebody told me, yeah, I've been coming into your room and watching you at night, I'd be like, are you okay? That's not romantic to me. Like, we're gonna have to figure something out.
We need to have words there. Can they talk to the principal, or is it like, you know?
That is just, that's such a big like plot hole to me. Like, why are you 150 years old but you're in high school voluntarily?
And falling in love with a child, like a baby.
Yeah, compared to him, yeah.
Like, you could have
I
found
mean,
at least
how many 300-year-olds are you going to be attracted to? I mean,
fair. Yeah.
There were other vampires in the beginning. Like he had a prospective love interest who was a vampire, but he was like, "Nah, let me go for this, baby."
I mean, I don't know. I like older women, but 300 is a bit of a push. You know?
And I still have such a problem with how she made Jacob literally imprint on a baby. She didn't have to do that.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Now that I'm thinking back, she's an odd lady. She made a lot of really odd choices in that whole world that she did not need to. He did not need to imprint on that baby.
In the movie, the baby was weird.
Yeah. Because it was AI or something, and it was like so obvious. It was so obvious. But then when she got older, and the girl that played her really nailed it. Oh, and I got to give a shout out to Alicia Weir, who played Abigail. If y'all have not seen that movie, now that is a vampire movie to see.
That is a good movie.
That is a vampire
movie.
Oh, is that the one where they kidnapped that little girl?
Yes, little ballerina girl.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
This kid is she's gonna be winning Oscars before long because she was absolutely brilliant in that movie.
She was good.
But anyway,
I have to watch it,
yeah, definitely. Y'all watch that one together. That's really good. Lindsay and I watched it together. Well, I watched it and then I made Lindsay watch it again with me. It was so good.
I love it. That's how we are with Oddity. It just happens to be an Irish film. We didn't realize that at the time.
Such a good movie.
Oh,
the best horror movie I've seen, probably since Hell House at least, which is my favorite movie pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, did we ever tell you, Lindsay, that when we watched Hell House, afterwards we my nieces. I have two nieces. And now they're 19 and 17. But back then, when we showed them the movie, they were maybe 11, 13.
Yeah.
So when we first showed them this movie, we told them it was real.
Because it's found footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And they were so scared at the end of it because we told them that we were going to go visit this house. And they were like, no, don't go. No, did you not? Don't. They were so scared for us. Yeah. And then we're like, no, it's not real.
Listen, the first time that I watched that movie, my old college roommate came up to visit me. And she was like, I have this movie. We have to watch it together. It's going to blow your mind. She would come up every New Year's Eve. And we would get drunk and watch a scary movie, watch the ball drop, whatever. But it got to the part where I don't remember his name because I've not seen it in a while, but the guy that's always filming.
Yeah.
He wakes up in the night and he turns the light on that girl sitting behind him. The scariest part I think in the whole movie. And I have the blanket up here, I'm so scared, and I look over and she's just dead ass asleep. She's and I was like, oh my god, I have to watch this by myself, but I did. I watched the rest of the thing, and it's just a masterpiece. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, honestly, as a fan of found footage films, anyway, that's top tier. Yeah,
absolutely. But and then we try to watch the second one. I know there's more out now.
There's 3, I think.
Yeah, so the second one holds up. Third one is very good, but it kind of wanes. And then the fourth one knocks it out of the park. I'm like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was 4 now. Yeah, she's gonna have to come back down. We're gonna have to watch it.
yeah, you should. I tell everybody.
I think he bought The Grudge, and y'all remember when The Ring and The Grudge came out back in the day, and they were just people got really into Korean horror films and stuff. So those movies always gave me PTSD. I shouldn't speak lightly about PTSD, but it did leave a number on me because up until this day I can't sleep with the lights off. I have to have it on, or I will get out of bed and turn it on. I can't sleep without it. But it was because of The Ring, and The Grudge made it worse. And we showed that movie to the kids when they were older, and they were just it's not scary. I was like, what? And as soon as that movie turned off, once it was over, I took the movie and I threw it away. I can't.
I don't even want it in the house.
He bought it. He was upset about it.
Yeah, I don't remember buying it either, though, which is strange.
He bought it for $5 at Walmart. It was in that discount.
bin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
What
I
the
threw it
hell?
away because I was like, this can't be in the house.
Because that's how it would go, right? Like you find a scary movie from the $5 bin, but then in reality, it's gonna curse you forever and actually crawl out of the TV.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, guys, it has been a blast. We've kept you guys. I think this is the longest episode we have ever done, so we probably will break it up into two.
Sorry about all the
No,
talking.
no.
don't apologize.
It's been a
It's
really
been a
great time.
blast. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a blast. We have got to have you guys back on, and we'll promote your shows and your socials and all of that, so that you guys get some promos. Not that we're popular or anything, but maybe people who
To our little
follow
audience.
us will then follow
Yeah.
you if they don't already. But
And we have
No,
to take our
absolutely.
trip too.
yes, our trip. We want to take a trip.
Yeah, so that was the thing that keeps hindering us every time we were looking, because we went up to Maine, and I was like, okay, the next trip we have to go to Virginia. There's no direct flight.
Right.
So for us, it was like, okay, we'll have to go like here and then like take a 4 hour or whatever.
I
So,
know.
but when we live in Ohio or wherever we end up,
Yeah.
the road
Definitely.
trip will be much
Yes.
easier. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I genuinely cannot wait to go like and see Trans-Allegheny and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Yeah, we
yeah.
have to do it. That'll
Wow.
be so
Did we touch on everything that you wanted to talk about? Yeah.
Yes,
think
and
so.
now we want to
Okay.
give you guys these last few minutes to tell our listeners anything about yourselves that you would like to, or promote anything that you've got coming up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Houston Strange is the newest thing, and hopefully we can get it popular enough that I can just do that full time and drive from house to house collecting ghost stories.
Yeah, really.
But no, like Houston Strange itself is just going to be Houston Strange, and hopefully a few seasons, and then when we do move to wherever we move to, I hope to make a few tweaks and keep that going with like just getting to know like local lore and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like Weekly Creep, honestly, I felt like when we weren't doing it, like you were saying, like we started to miss it so much. So it's not so much about like the listenership and stuff, it's the small core that we have are so lovely, like, you know what I mean? And like we wouldn't have known Lindsay if it wasn't for Weekly Creep. And I have to say as well, because I meant to say it at the start, but I couldn't find anything. And now I realized I was just looking at the stickers on top. These are dusty. But like, this is from Lindsay. You know what I mean? Like, she designed it. Like, you know what I mean?
I need to redo, though. I feel like I could do so much better now. I need to give it a refresh.
But I kind of like the, like, you know, like, although I guess
My hair is different.
I can't get it to focus. Yeah, both of our hairs now are different, actually.
Yeah.
But no, so guys, this was really, really great. Sorry it took so long to get around to it, but like I said, like we haven't been doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in
That's
terms
what
of
life happens.
yeah, and in terms of plug and stuff, yeah, just check out Weekly Creep on Instagram, and Houston Strange has its own Instagram, which you'll find through Weekly Creep anyway. And when this comes out, obviously we'll be sharing it because this was a blast.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Yeah,
a new for real in Weekly Creep on YouTube. So if you want to check that out.
Look, that's not new. That's been out since that's your first time saying it.
No. Yeah, I guess it's new to me, but
Yeah.
oh my god, every
Sure,
time I
it's
see
like-
stuff like that, like, because you've done blooper reels before, like it just
Yeah.
makes me laugh.
Oh,
I
I
just
love
look
a
at it and
blooper
I'm just
reel.
like, oh,
We do.
okay.
We love bloopers.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dulce you have like the best laugh. There was one, because I always listen to podcasts in the morning when I'm getting ready for work. And there was one episode, it's been a while back. Maybe it was, for some reason, I want to say it was like the lycanthropy episodes.
Okay.
Something happened and y'all were dying. And I was laughing so hard. And I had to stop with my makeup because I was like about to cry because Dulce's laugh is so infectious. I was like, I need to stop.
I will say, in fairness, like we have had so many messages with people saying, like, I love Dulce's laugh so much. And like,
so
even
good.
to the point where we had one listener say that because we took such a long break, this one listener in particular reached out and was like, my kids are actually missing you guys because they're so used to
Aw.
having the laughing girl in the camera.
So sweet.
Yeah. No, it was
That's
really,
so
really
sweet.
sweet. So,
That's great. And, you know, we're the same way you guys are. We don't do it for, you know, the big numbers or anything. We just kind of have fun doing it, you know,
Yeah.
learning and doing stuff together and hanging out, meeting people like you all and, you know, getting to know like-minded people. And it's just been a lot of fun. And I'm thankful that we kind of took a leap of faith and kind of jumped off into this because it has been a ride for the past year.
It was so funny because I am not like one to self-promote. So when we first started it, I was like, I didn't really say anything on social media because I was like, well, I don't want to seem braggy. Like I don't know how to self-promote. Adam messaged me and he was like, when were you gonna tell us that you had a podcast? I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I don't know how.
believe it or not, like, because I've actually been on like other shows as well, like different, like less conversational than this. It's like, oh, you go on, you tell a ghost story, and then like you promote yourself, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, go with the Weekly Creep. It's fine. Like, just
Yeah.
but, no, we definitely will arrange a meetup in person, whether it's at Trans Allegheny or somewhere in the middle. And
Yeah.
Some convention or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
convention would be great. Or there's haunted places everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we have absolutely enjoyed it. I'm so glad that we got to talk in person over. Technology is great. It's great.
No, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. Please go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening.
You guys too.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.